Evening, name's Rain. Yes, I am not in my truck, and also do not make fun of my black and white plaid pajama pants. Yesterday, around about this time, I was discussing the idea of a bookmark memory. Not exactly the best name for it. A core memory is probably a much better term for it, but the idea of a memory that at the time that it's formed, you just don't realize how important that instance is to you and the impact that that's going to have on you later in life. And you go through about your mundane day and everything's normal, and then you come across whatever kind of stimulus it might be, whether it's something you see or something you hear, or as I discussed, something you smell, and all of a sudden you go back. It comes flooding back to you, all the details of whatever memory it may be. And for me, the one that I talked about yesterday was going and cutting my great grandmother's yard with the push mower with my grandfather on the weekends, and how all the big times we used to have, and how that turned into the whole idea of fatty bacon and the cows, and how that became a joke for the rest of that man's life. How it was just always funny about cows. But today I was going through my possessions again, as I discussed, and I found a bunch of stuff that it really took me back. Video games are a big part of my life now. It's my one of my favorite hobbies, and if I'm being 100% honest, it's one of my only hobbies. But I first started out playing video games with my uncle on his Nintendo Entertainment System, and we sat in his bedroom on that burgundy carpet in his bedroom, because burgundy carpet was not a bad idea apparently, and we played on the old Nintendo Entertainment System, the big OG gray brick with a cartridge that had Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt on it. And man, I'd go into his bedroom like, "Hey, what's up, Uncle David?" And he said, "Yeah, you're looking for a little bit of Mario." And so we'd pop that cartridge into the slot on that thing. He'd blow in it real quick before he put it in, because back then we thought that was what you're supposed to do, blowing in the cartridge to get rid of the dust, not knowing about the moisture issue that creates. But we had a big time, usually playing Duck Hunt, because that was the only thing I was really good with. We had that gray zapper, the modern iteration of it being the Wii Zapper, and just plug away with the ducks until we got sick of hearing the dog laugh at me, and then I'd watch him play Super Mario Brothers, because I was terrible at that game at the ripe old age of 5, 6, right in there. I never could get past World 1-3. Just I'd always fall in the gaps between the mushroom platforms. It was so annoying and embarrassing, and he always thought it was comedic. But just sitting there on that carpet, gaping in awe at the screen that he is just whistling through all these levels, and that was a lot of fun. And some of the earliest memories that I have of not just my uncle but of my grandparents' house, like that was a different time and a totally different decor. I tell you something, those times have long since passed. Everything used to be all sorts of vibrant colors. They had a blue couch with like red and yellow stripes on it, thin little stripes. You could barely see them, but a blue couch. And I've got a couch, sofa, whatever you want to call it. I got a couch, and it's brown, just like this chair is brown, and that chair is brown, and this lamp is brown. Everything's brown nowadays, except this blanket, which my sister made for me, and that kind of breaks up the monotonous brown that I have in my living room. But that was the first time I remember playing a video game. Was with my uncle playing Duck Hunt, and that wasn't my game. I didn't own that console, so the first time that I got a video game that was mine, it was my possession, was in the Cub Scouts. The Boy Scouts, like junior league or whatever, was Cub Scouts, and my mother and father inducted me into the Cub Scouts, and that was some really good times that we had with them. And there's a lot of stories that I could bring up about that, like whenever we went to Camp Blue Heron in North Carolina. It's in one of the Carolinas, North Carolina or South Carolina. Went on a big old camping trip and played pickup sticks and shot bottle rockets at each other and fell in the lake a couple times, and the tent blew over in the storm. We had so much fun. It was phenomenal. Um, but one thing that I will never forget, the color of the ceiling in the auditorium of the church that we did our badge ceremony in. I remember every detail of that room. The green pews or benches, whatever, in the auditorium, and the weird lighting, how it was so dimly lit because they had only the lights by the stage lit. And walking from the back of the auditorium up to the front to receive whatever merit badges it was that we had received. I remember all the people that were there. The Cub Scouts leader and his wife were right up there on the stage to the left, and they'd call out a name, and one of the scouts would run up there, and their parents would be clapping for him. Everybody in the auditorium would be clapping for him to go and receive a badge for tying knots or trimming the grass or I don't know, blowing leaves off the shingles on the roof, whatever it might have been that we were getting badges for. And I have my old little Boy Scout, Cub Scout belt somewhere with all the badges on it. That's the next thing I'm gonna try and dig up. But in addition to the badges, they were giving us things along with the little prizes, along with the badges, and in recognition of our good scoutsmanship or whatever. And everybody would go up there and they'd get their badges and they'd get $20 with it, or maybe a new pair of shoes or something like that, maybe roller skates. And whenever I went up there to get whatever badge it was some kind of big old completionist badge. Like I'd gotten all these different badges because I remember I graduated top of my scout class or whatever. I got a lot of badges on that belt. And so the badge that I got was a real humdinger. And so they gave me a real humdinger of a prize. They gave me a purple Game Boy Color. This was the first time that I had ever gotten my own game system. And again, I'm 6, 7, 8 years old, right in there. And this, to me, they handed me this thing, and I remember doubling over laughing about it. Not because I thought it was like a dumb gift. I was ecstatic to receive it, but because I looked over at my mother whenever they handed me the box that this thing came in, and I wish I had the original box this came in. I don't think I have it anymore. They handed me the box that this thing came in, and I looked at my mama, and she was just, oh my goodness, they gave my son a game system. Oh. The expression she made was so blasted funny. This was phenomenal to me. I was so happy to get this thing. And I've had the batteries out of it for years. I don't know if this thing works. I don't know. It's something I'm kind of reluctant to ever put batteries in and try and test it because I'm afraid I might find that the thing doesn't work anymore and then I'm going to be sad. But it also they gave me two games with it. Super Mario Brothers Deluxe, the cartridge for this, and I'd be surprised if this thing works because I played the crap out of this game. This was when they introduced the red coins, the 5 red coins that are scattered throughout the level that you got to go find. I think in the new Super Mario Brothers Wii game, there's 8 of them, and you have to touch a ring to be able to, it's a whole thing. But this was so cool. I loved playing this because I always remembered watching my uncle play it on the Nintendo Entertainment System, so I remembered a lot of the level layouts, and I blew through it quick. Like, I got to 8-4 and beat Bowser very shortly after getting this console, or after getting the Game Boy and this cartridge. And I felt like $1,000,000 whenever I beat it. It's like, finally, I'm good at this game. I didn't fall in between the mushroom platforms in 1-3. I've accomplished something. And that developed my affinity for video games, was playing this little son of a gun right there. This brought me so many hours of just pure enjoyment. This had to be the first game that I spent more than 100 hours playing. Which nowadays, people play games for thousands of hours. I have God knows how many thousands of hours in games like Siege, Arma 3, World of Warcraft, DayZ, all these different games that I've spent thousands upon thousands of hours on was because of this little thing right here. I love this game. But the other cartridge that they gave me was Madden 2000. And I tried to play this. The first time I ever booted this thing up, I was so confused because it's a football game and I knew nothing about football. I was a baseball kid. I played t-ball at the age of 5, and that was my introduction to sports, was playing t-ball in 2000, just a little bit after my sister was born. And man, this right here made absolutely no sense because it's like, where's the bats? Well, nobody has gloves on. And I didn't understand any of the stuff. Like it gave you the teams, you had to choose in all these different team names I don't recognize. Where's the Atlanta Braves? The Mets? Where? I didn't understand any of it. And then the plays, like the formations of the team, that bogged me down so hard. And then just trying to like kick off, I never could get past that. So I didn't play this at all. But man, that right there was such a prize for me as a kid. I treasured that thing, and my entire family knew that I did. Like my mother, she became acclimated to the idea of me playing games pretty quick because my parents bought a PlayStation 1 not too long after that, and my mother played Harvest Moon Back to Nature. This game right here. This is as far as I know, as far as I'm aware, and as far as I'm concerned, this game is the precursor to Animal Crossing. I don't know 100% if they're related or not, but I know that having watched her play Animal Crossing and having seen her play hundreds of hours of this, the only way they're similar is because you have like a plot of land that you can manipulate. Realistically, this is a much more complex game, in my opinion, than any Animal Crossing game that I've seen her play. And she played the crap out of this. This is like an RPG where you play as some dude who's got a farm that was left to him by his grandfather, and you've got to cultivate the farm and get to know all the townspeople and help them sort out their life problems and go get stuck in the mine in the wintertime and all this. Man, my mother doesn't play many video games because not many of them appeal to her. But I remember sitting in the rocking chair in the living room of that house, watching her sitting on the floor with her nose to the TV, that big old Magnavox tube television, just loving this game. And she had the Prima strategy guide for this too. Big old thick book, and I would pore over that book anytime I wasn't like doing schoolwork and like anything of value. I would be sitting there doing something ridiculous and reading the strategy guide to a game that I got lost every time my mother started playing it. I had no idea what was going on, but I was happy that she knew what was going on, and I was happy that she was enjoying it. This right here made her more accepting of me playing this little guy right here. And my family, like I say, they became acclimated to me having a game system in 2000, in 2003, right in that range. And my uncle decided, all right, my nephew's getting into video games. That's good. That's good. I'm going to buy him a gift. And so the first gift that I remember ever receiving from somebody who was not my mother or my father or my Cub Scouts leader was a worm light. This little light to plug in, because in the olden days, game systems didn't have backlights. You know, the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Color and the first, I don't believe the first Nintendo DS had a backlit screen. The Game Boy Advance had a backlit screen, but it was toggleable. So in order to have light on your screen, you would either have to play up under a lamp or something, or take this little worm light and plug it in like that and try and play like this and try and look around the worm light and like tilt it over here. And man, we thought that was high tech. Look at that UFO shaped little light bulb right there. That is so cool. He came up onto my mama and daddy's steps. They had wood set of steps outside the door of the house. And it was in April because my birthday's in April. But it was cold outside. And my mom opened the door because my uncle knocked. And he asked for me, and I ran over to the door, and he said, I brought you something. And he pulled out this in a Ziploc bag. And he said, "No, you got the Game Boy Color, and I wanted to give you this right here so that you can actually see what you're playing." And I took the bag from him, and I had no idea what it was. I was like, this curly little piece of wire with a bulb on the end of it. I couldn't at the time like figure out what in the hell I was supposed to do with it. But I thanked him for it, and I kept trying to plug it into the bottom of the thing because I'm looking at this square hole. Why is the hole round down here? And it took me a while to realize the side of that plug, like the side of it was the plug spot. I remember that it's so stupid, but I he gave me a light for my Game Boy, and I don't. I know I thanked him for it, but I don't feel like I thanked him enough for it because he left shortly after that, and I just, man, I'd like to think that I gave him the appropriate fanfare for just going and buying me something and bringing it over to my house on a cloudy day in April when it was like 50 degrees outside. I don't know. As you think back to things that you should have done differently, why am I thinking back to whenever I was like less than 10 years old and it's like, man, you should have done better? Why? I appreciated it. I did. And I had that thing plugged in every time I ever picked up that Game Boy. And I picked up that Game Boy a lot. So I definitely used that thing a lot. But over the next year or so, my aunt and my uncle would buy me other cartridges for the thing, like Croc. They had this on the PlayStation, and I've probably got that disc, like the PlayStation disc, around here somewhere because I've got a PlayStation 2 sitting out over here because that was what I was going through. But yeah, they had that on disc on PlayStation, and I did not like the PlayStation version of the game. I thought it was scary. I thought it was spoopy. The characters look all weird and creepy, and it just looked like creepypasta material, especially nowadays where there's a lot of creepypastas of old PS games. It looked like a creepypasta back then, and I didn't even know what that was. So I appreciated it, but I never played it. Not back then. Now, I played it a couple years later, like I must have been 15, 16 whenever I actually did try to play this, and it was creepy then. Here I am, a grown-ass boy, and I'm scared of a confounded little Game Boy game. It just speaks to the art style of Croc maybe not being very well thought out, or maybe it was perfectly thought out. Yeah, maybe that was the artist's original intent. But I got so many Game Boy games. The Harvest Moon game for the Game Boy. This I took on the camping trip to Camp Blue Heron with my dad in the towards the end of my time in the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, whatever. And I might have played 20 minutes of it. Like, I took the Game Boy out there intending to fill whatever kind of empty time there was, and there was none. I just had a big time and never wound up playing this then, but I did play a lot of it later on until I got Harvest Moon 2. And I found, we found Harvest Moon 2 at I don't remember if it was a GameStop or an EB Games, but we found this cartridge and scooped it up and played the crap out of it. And we were always looking for the Harvest Moon 2 for the PlayStation. Thinking that if there's a Harvest Moon 2 for the Game Boy, this has to be like a spin-off or a dumbed-down version of the PlayStation game. We never could find it because there wasn't one. So that was annoying. And then I got Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2, which I don't even remember when this movie came out. I never wound up playing this very much because I never could get past the first two levels because the pixel art for this game was so jank and so difficult to tell like enemy hitboxes that I never could get past the first boss because there's boss fights in this game. I mean, Zurg, obviously. So I never could get past that boss fight because I could just never tell the full like size of his hitbox. That was my start with video games. And the start of many, 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 many tens of thousands of hours that I have spent squashing my small but shapely patukas into a chair, dead to the world, fixated on what was on the screen in front of me, with complete abandon. And that I don't have any regrets about. Playing video games has gotten me, for the most part, nothing but fun, nothing but joy. Obviously, there's been some stupid things with like different gaming communities and different people that I've met through games, and I'll be honest with you, the whenever I stream, I make a big deal out of whatever it is I'm doing. I have big reactions to whatever sort of thing it is because I'm invested in the game. But I turn off whatever game it is that I'm playing nowadays, and I never think about it for even more than like 2 minutes after the screen goes off, because it doesn't matter to me at all now that I'm grown up, now that I'm a big boy. But that stuff there, man, I used to dream about that stuff. Like, it never left my mind unless I was, occupied with something that was more magnificent for the moment. But just to dream about Super Mario Brothers and about Harvest Moon and NASCAR Rumble, which was a PlayStation game that I no longer have. I don't know what happened to the disc, and I looked. I looked through every box, every drawer, every shelf, this entertainment center right here next to me, the cabinet. I looked through everything that NASCAR Rumble might be hiding in, and I could not find my copy of that game. And I know I have it somewhere. I have to. I never would have gotten rid of that thing, because that was what I played with my father. And that was back in the days of split screen, where we plug in the two controllers on the front of the PlayStation and just sit there in the living room for hours playing NASCAR Rumble, which is like NASCAR 98 or 2000 or any of those old NASCAR games, but it was a lot more cartoony in that, yeah, sure, you've got what was at the time realistic-ish graphics for a car, and they would have the actual slot cars. Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, but you would be racing through ridiculous maps, like Swamp Romp, which was a big old swamp map, and Night Flight, which was like a city, but the overpasses were ramps, and you had to try and jump across the overpasses, and Rip Tide, which was like driving around the beach and not trying not to go into the ocean. It was like a Hot Wheels game, but with NASCAR branded products. And that was, man, we spent so much time playing that game. Like going through the Rookie League, and then the Pro League, and then the Elite, and then doing the EA Cup, because it's an EA game. Back when EA was perfect. And there were like these secret cars that you could unlock by finding golden wrench collectible Easter eggs in the maps, in the tracks, whatever. You could unlock the chicken truck and the jet car and the hot rod and the RV, which I distinctly remember is the one unlockable car that we never found the golden wrench for. And this was in the days before Google. We couldn't just look up where is the golden wrench to unlock the RV, which I did look it up like recently, and I think it's in the Swamp Rump map. And we thought, we narrowed it down where it had to be in either Swamp Romp or Mardi Gras. One of those two maps had to have that golden wrench. Had to be able to unlock the one thing in the entire game. We had completed 99% of that game. That one wrench eluded us. That one collectible item to be able to unlock the final vehicle. And we never could find it, but we knew it had to be somewhere in Swamp Romp or Mardi Gras. And we spent hours crawling through those maps, driving a mile an hour in not arcade mode, but in solo mode, trying to find a collapsible wall or maybe a prop that would like move or break. because they hid those wrenches behind like false walls and stuff. And we like bumped around that map for hours. Him, and then I would take over whenever he got tired of looking at the screen and not finding that wrench, and we never could find it. And that was so much fun. But let me move it. This right here. We found the sequel to it, Rumble Racing. I found this at a game store in Bluffton, I think. I don't remember. It was Bluffton or Beaufort, but it was in South Carolina, and we found the sequel to it where they had lost the rights to NASCAR branding. They wanted to make another Rumble game, and they did, but yeah, they couldn't call it NASCAR Rumble 2. But it has all the old, like the power-ups in it. I'm pretty sure. I have not tried this yet, but you had power-ups just like what you've got in Mario Kart, where you disrupt the other players. They had the Tornado, which you'd fire off the tornado and it'd go tearing around the track and throw the other cars around. The Freeze, which would make the steering wheel of the affected car not work. The Storm, which would like make them roll all around on the track and not drive in a straight line, and would like obstruct their vision because there's this little cartoonish storm cloud sitting on the windshield where you can't see. Bad gas, where it would be like a banana peel in Mario Kart, where you poop the thing out the back of your vehicle, and if another vehicle ran over it, it would make them slow down really hard. The oil slick, which I guess is a better comparison to the banana peel, better like analog for it, because it would make the thing slippery and not drive in a straight line, lose traction. That was some good damn times, man. I remember so much of this stuff because it was so much fun. And at the time, I didn't realize how much I valued that, but man, I would give anything to be that little 10-year-old boy sitting on the floor right there next to my daddy playing NASCAR Rumble. Not a care in the world. Having a big time. But I'm also happy I'm here. You know, I'm happy to be able to sit here in the chair and think about it. All the good times that were had, and knowing full well that I can boot up that PlayStation there and pop that disc in there and hopefully get it working. But if it doesn't, I know there's got to be other copies somewhere I can get working again, and call Daddy up, and we can sit right here in my living room in 2024 and play a Rumble game all over again. And get Mama over here, and she can play Harvest Moon, or take the disc over there. You know, they don't have to come over here and be my living room. They can be in their living room just like the old days and play these games. Have some more good time with it. Have some more bookmark memories to think about later on. But there's a lot of other things that I've found as I've been plowing through all my possessions, and a lot of nice things that I've rediscovered that I have remembered a lot about, and a lot of stories that I have about all those times associated with all those possessions aforementioned. So I'll have to see what else I can drum up and see if I can condense anything down where I'm gonna be able to talk about it within a timely manner. How long has this been? I've been sitting here blabbering for 32 minutes about this stuff. So let me go ahead and skibbity toilet on up out of here. I got to go to the bathroom. I got to get myself a drink and rest my arm for a bit, because holding up this ridiculous mic, like this lavalier mic, I bought this so that I could like make videos a little bit clearer. But I didn't like having it clipped onto my collar, so I just kind of hold it. It looks ridiculous, and my arm does fall asleep after being elevated like this for so long, but could be worse. I could be yelling at the camera from, 15 feet away and barely be audible through all the echoes off the walls and cabinets and whatnot. I'm continuing to blabber because I don't remember. I don't know how to. I don't know how to end this conversation. I'll be back.